Kelvyn, been a while.
Yes, sir, been a minute. Hip-hop education definitely started with East Coast rap. Music is something religious, it is something spiritual. I spend a lot of time, even though surrounded by people, feeling alone. Music was a way for me to bond with people. It was like they were directly speaking to me. My real love for music I discovered through Tupac, for sure.
Amazing.
A very successful rapper that loves rap and that loves music will always collaborate with somebody someone has never heard of just because they're a fan and they want to give them a platform. I wrote a script, a short film around that, how we were smuggling the rum out of the country, and it was a lot of fun.
Hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Kelvyn, been a while.
Yes, sir, been a minute.
Your show last night, I have to say, I didn't know what to expect because we've only known each other as artists in the studio kind of thing. I'd never seen you live, but that was really special last night. It was, I didn't know, as I said, what to expect, and I kind of had mixed feelings about how it would play out because I've seen shows before, I've seen Public Enemy and I saw Tyler, the Creator, in Brixton, and I have to be honest, it was a pretty heavy atmosphere. It's like you go in there and it's it could go either way. But last night, the amount of love in the room, I found quite extraordinary, the way you brought everybody together. And I've never seen that being done, even in a pop kind of concert or a rock concert, the way you got everybody in a huge circle, all the fans around you, you got into the middle of the audience and you kind of, you were so, I don't know, it was like a religious ceremony or something, the way you pulled them all together and had them, everybody in the whole place around you. I mean, how did that evolve, that kind of...
I feel like music is something that brings people together. It's made by the people, for the people. And when you, the people take time to be there, you know what I mean? Especially nowadays, they could be everywhere. They could be at home, they could be somewhere chilling, scrolling on their phone, whatever. So the fact that they take time out of their day to, pay attention to what you do, to me is always such a big blessing that I'm like, okay, how can I reciprocate that energy? How can I, show them some love? And music is something religious. It is something spiritual, it's based on vibration. You walk out, you hear the birds singing, everything has a sound to it and it touches something in us. So when I perform, it is just an extension of that. And just another way of expressing myself and what I want to tell the world. And what I want to tell the world is it's about love, It's about loving yourself, it's about loving others and sharing that.
Because when you do smaller venues, it's a complete immersive experience, isn't it? Because you were mentioning earlier on, we're in this amazing space now where there's a huge attention to detail, but you sent the gigs as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Which is an amazing thing.
So I have a business partner in the US, Trish, and we have the business called Flores Lanes, and we have scented candles there. So with her, I develop the scents, and depending on where I am in the world, where I'm playing, and what season it is, we develop unique scents. We scent the venue with diffusers, and you can also buy the scented candles afterwards. And that idea came to me just because I was thinking about what's the strongest sense of memory, and that is scent, right? You think about your mom's perfume, your dad's perfume, how the trees or flowers smell in the area you grew up in and all that sort of stuff. So I was like, okay, how can I give you a memory, an experience that you can take home after the show? How can I continue this high that you get at the show and, let you take it home? And that's that. I want people to listen to my music whilst they burn my candle to have an immersive experience.
I don't know anyone else has ever done that.
No, I don't think so.
I think that's a first. It's an absolute first. And to be honest, again, without banging on about it too much, I found the whole gig a first. I'd never seen anyone else do that, the way you very quickly bonded everybody. Complete, it's a new town for you, so they're not like your die-hard fans, which you have, all over the world. But so it's a kind of a new area for you. You're exploring this part of the world, and just so quickly everybody adapted, which I thought you were very brave. You were super confident the way you went into the audience with. There was no sort of inhibition in any way, in a good way, not in a vain way, and sort of just everybody connected together, and it was just brilliant atmosphere, and everybody was happy.
That's
at the end of the show.
That's the most important thing. Growing up being mixed race in Germany, and like having scholarship for a private school, but being poor, and all these like things. I was always like between the chairs, between two extremes. So I spent a lot of time, even though surrounded by people, feeling alone. And music was a way for me to like bond with people. Like when I was listening to like Tupac and Kid Cudi and these sort of artists growing up, it was like they were directly speaking to me, and I wanted to like continue that, you know. And live shows particularly, that's like the best opportunity. And I feel like if you convert someone at a live show, that's a fan you'll never lose.
Yeah.
Because anybody can sound great on a record, but like, can you do that live? Can you bond with the people live? Can you get that energy across? It's about authenticity, and you can't fake that.
Yeah, I was thinking sort of as I was leaving last night, I thought, actually, the last moment I saw you last night was you walking away with a bottle of Hennessy and a bottle of champagne at like 3:30 or something.
Yeah.
I had to go home. There, there they go, into the night.
Oh yes, we had to, you know, experience Prague.
But I think those people that were at that show last night will never forget that show. I thought it was one of those gigs that someone goes to and goes, you know what, they're going to remember that in like 50 years' time. I remember in Prague at Metronome, we saw this guy, and I'm not just saying it was kind of that special. And for whatever reason, it kind of made me smile because, you know, I remembered when I first met you, like way back in the day. And, you know, you came to Abbey Road, you know, we were going to work together. And I hope you don't think this is in any way an insult, but you were dirt poor.
Yeah. Listen, one of the sessions we had, after the session, I slept, like I was supposed to stay at my uncle's house. He wasn't there. He didn't drop the keys. It was in Upper Holloway. And I had no other place to go. And I ended up, so a neighbor luckily passed by. So I got into the house, into the hallway.
Right.
And then that was like the hallway, and that was like the room with the bins. And then there was a floor, another hallway in between that was just as long as I'm tall. And I slept in there.
Wow.
Like I laid on the floor, I put my feet here to close that door, used my head to close the other. I literally slept in there.
Yeah, but you styled it out well, man.
Nobody would ever know.
You'd never know. You styled it out.
Yeah.
I remember that when you came, because I was saying to Pierce McIntyre, who you know as well, but I remember when you came and it was like, you couldn't afford us, I mean, to be honest. But I just met you and Pierce as well. Both of us met and we just, this kid's great. You know, and again, I'm not just saying this, but it was like, you know, you did some, you know, you rapped for us and you did some spitting, and it was brilliant. And we said, you know what, let's just work with him regardless, because he's like, you can tell the winners at the starting gate. And it was like, okay, this guy's going to go on to something. And we both just genuinely liked you. And that was kind of the start of it all. But I kind of, you know, I liked your hustle. You know, you were out to try and do something. And I mean, myself and Pierce have been in that same position, you know, starting out. We're not from money.
Exactly.
You know, you're not from money. So you have to kind of live by your wits. And you were doing that. And we knew that. But it was like, okay, you know, he can't afford the usual rates, but we have to work with him because he's great. And then, you know, coincidentally, we ended up working together on one of the biggest commercials for Saatchi and Saatchi that, you know, a year later, or whatever it was, and which was a huge success, their biggest, most successful. So if we hadn't have done that and took that leap of faith with you, then we wouldn't have had you know, and you wouldn't have had us. And so it's that having that belief in somebody, you can, you know, it's like, you have a huge impact on your life, just giving somebody a chance. And you gave us a chance, we gave you a chance, and it ended up, you know, really well.
At this point, also shout out to Margaret, who
was great.
made this all happen. Yeah.
She was a sweetheart and a big believer in what you were doing, and
from very early,
and you know, sort of cheerleading you on all the way. So let's just go back a little bit then to Wiesbaden, where you grew up in Germany. So, and your dad, he worked on a military base there?
Yeah, not in Wiesbaden. It was before we moved to Wiesbaden. Yeah, he used to work as a chef. He's Nigerian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm not American. He's not American either, even though he lived in Atlanta for some time. But yeah, Wiesbaden. So I was born in Fulda, which is like a small village. Then we moved to Wiesbaden when I was like around 6, 7. And Wiesbaden is a very famous city within the military people, the American military people, because there's a huge U.S. base, a military base there. And so I grew up around like a lot of American culture, which is why I also have that accent. And it's interesting, actually, if you like do some digging, there's like Schoolboy Q, who's a very big rapper. He was born there. J. Cole is from that area.
Wow.
There's a lot of people are from there, or kind of like have a connection to that place. Yeah.
So obviously, and the part of Wiesbaden that you were living in was Turkish. So you're getting all that Turkish influence musically? And obviously you're getting music at home. So I think I remember you telling me your dad was into Afrobeat and reggae and
absolutely.
And you were listening to like Tracy Chapman as well and Luther Vandross and that was a kind
all the
of
classics.
and Led Zeppelin yourself, back in the day. So you were absorbing a lot of different music and sort of and trying to fuse your own style. I mean, how was that for you kind of growing up? How did you find a center for all of that?
I didn't really for a long time, and I think I still don't. Like, my music taste is very eclectic. If you like go into my like playlists that I make, there's like it's all over the place. I've just recently started approaching music more holistically in terms of like my last project, German Angst. I was like, okay, I want to create a certain sound and it should be so many tracks and this is how we're going to do it. And before, I just used to go to the studio. I might do like a dancehall song, I might do an Afrobeat song, I might do a trap song, I might do a rock song, a techno song, like whatever. And it will go like that for like 1-2 years. And then I'll take the tracks from all the different sessions and kind of like get the narrative into it by just like piecing them together. Whereas again, with the last project, it was like, we're taking these sounds and this is what I want to create. Yeah.
So, I mean, your kind of rap style from way back when I remember is very narrative based, I think. And you're obviously influenced then by Nas and I think if I remember at the time. Would that be true to say? Was that because he and Biggie maybe?
Yeah, I was listening to a lot of Nas. Like, my hip hop education definitely started with East Coast rap.
Yeah.
Like, from Gangstar to Seal Smooth Pete Rock, Nas, Biggie, and so on. But like my real love for music, I discovered through Tupac for sure.
Yeah, amazing. And so evolving that into the future, now it's where kind of rap has gone now. I mean, I was just thinking about this morning as well, that again, with the rap community generally, they've embraced kind of rap as a business nearly, in the sense that you're not just, a rapper, you're an entrepreneur, you've got your finger in a lot of pies. And, I think it's done that more than any other music culture, like than rock or pop. They've really created an industry within themselves. They're like a business. So of course you're an artist, but you're also a business.
Absolutely. But I think on the one hand, it's like signs of the time. Like, you're an artist, you've always been a brand, but artists have become smarter, and also the people that work with the artists, because there's more and more people that don't come. Obviously, there's a lot of nepotism in the industry, but there's also a lot of people who just kind of like carve out their own lane. And hip hop always had like this very, more so in the beginning than now, rebellious spirit of like, okay, we have to make our own way. And hip hop is full of hustlers. It's full of people who would have never had another opportunity. And yeah, they love music, but also they have to survive and they have to, feed a lot of mouths. So you will have to become entrepreneurial, and especially back in the day, how record deals used to be like.
Yeah, terrible.
You wouldn't make any money, so you just needed to have these side businesses. Nowadays it's a bit different, you got all the different avenues, and the independent music market is such a big share. It has such a big share in the music industry, but the spirit remains the same, I think.
I remember because, quite quickly you got a major label deal. And that didn't quite work out for you in the end. I mean, I know it started off well, and as all these things do, and then sort of you start looking into things as you move along, and then you think, maybe
where's
that's
my
not
money?
Quite. When am I going to get paid?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, when I'm going to be stuck in this deal for the rest of my life. When you recoup, and that's always that recoupment thing, isn't it? Like, and how the creative accounting,
Crazy.
And so you bought all your rights back, which was a very brave thing to do, because it was very expensive as well.
Yeah. And I was, as far as I know, I think also like sort of the first artist, or at least hip hop artist, that actually bought back his catalog and bought himself out of a deal in Germany. So yeah, it was a big step. It was a lot of uncertainty because, it's that transition from like you're on survival mode to, okay, all of a sudden you're making money, to now, like, if you're in a deal, by the time you deliver X amount of tracks, you're gonna get another advance. So you at least, like, even if shit ain't working, that's coming in. So, it gives you kind of a level of security, of comfort. And now stepping back out and saying, not only am I gonna, you know, like not do that anymore, also I'm taking everything that I've made outside of the music to give it back to the people that, you know, I paid more than I got signed for that stuff. And it was all the money like from the live shows and brand deals and all that stuff. But it really paid out. Like I had my biggest records after I went independent. And that is mine forever, you know what I mean? So it was definitely a big risk that I took, but it was also a very smart decision. Like last month, I got into a new distro deal, and I had the leverage of also saying, you know what, like my back catalog is laying there, I'm gonna move it over. And without that, I wouldn't have gotten like the figures that I'm getting now, you know what I mean?
And like the deal will only last, they'll only sort of have a percentage of rights for the duration of the deal.
I own it anyway. I'm licensing it.
You're licensing it on.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, you know, after X amount of years, post-recoupment, it comes back to me. So it's good.
And on the fashion side, sort of, you've always loved fashion. I remember even back in the day when I met you, you were quite dapper, creatively dapper.
Yeah,
let's
absolutely.
put it that way.
Always know how to
Some
put it together.
unusual outfits, but but I love that as well. You know, you were kind of you were sort of making you look like a star. You know, I used to say that to people, like, whatever you do, I don't care what you wear, but look like a star. You know, just don't look like you just finished your shift at Tesco's. You know what I mean? Like, look like a star. So you always had that. So how did you kind of bring that into your business? How did you make that happen?
I mean, I'm half Nigerian, right? So like my dad is always like in Nigerian culture and African culture in general, you just gotta look fly. Like it doesn't matter if you have money or not. It's a form. It's the way you dress, the way you look, the way your hair is an extension of who you are as a person and how you feel. So you want to show that to the world, and you don't want to hold back. And that's just what I've always seen. So when I was a kid, I used to like sneak into my dad's room and like take his clothes and put them on, because he had all that like hip. In Germany, it was very hard to get like your hands on brands like Sean John and Rockaware and all that sort of stuff. So you used to have these like triple XL t-shirts, and I was super small. And for him back in the day, they already went like down to, you know, those long white t-shirts. So for me, they probably went over my knees. I used to wear them to school and shit. It was hilarious. But yeah, it was always a part of me. So once I started, I guess, getting more popular, people just started paying more attention, and, you know, brands started reaching out. And it's like, even now after our conversation, I'm going to fly back to Paris for Fashion Week. And this is just where I came from. So I flew out for this gig yesterday. And it's just...
From sleeping in those in a corridor to going to Fashion Week in Paris.
Sitting front row next to Lewis Hamilton and God knows who. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. I sometimes have these moments where I just sit there and I'm just realizing what the fuck is going on. It's like, this is really my life. Like, and that is because I did what everybody told me not to do, which is focus on music. Yeah, it's beautiful.
I've told this story before, but again. You just mentioned that word. There was a conversation between Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, and he was the reporter was saying, look, you know, I'd like you to, just as a fun thing, write down on a piece of paper, both of you at the same time, about what, you know, how you get successful in business. Just one word. What's that one word that would sum it all up? And don't show each other, and then we'll get you both to turn over, you know, when you've written it down. So they both take a piece of paper and they write it down, and then they turn it over, and both of them said focus. And that was like, both of them, it was like, that's the way to be successful.
100%.
And that's always kind of been you, I think. Even those heady early days when you had nothing and you were dirt poor coming to Abbey Road, you were hustling, but you had a vision and a kind of, you know, a focus on where to go, because you were studying business at the time, I remember, and but that wasn't really working out for you. You kind of liked the idea of that, but really,
it was an alibi, like just to get the bless. Because I had a scholarship to study law in Germany, and then I dropped out. And I remember I came back like after a couple of weeks, because I sat in the lecture, and then the professor was like, "Can you recite what I just said?" And I said, "No." And he said, "What you doing here?" And I said, "Yeah, what am I doing here?" And I never came back. And came back home and told my dad, "Yo, I'm I'm gonna become a rapper. And he looked at me, a rapper. Maybe you can be the rapping lawyer. Like,
You're going back to Nigeria, son.
yeah, exactly. That shit was. So I was like, okay, whatever. It was more so to get like my parents' blessing to leave the house, because I was the first one in my family to have the opportunity to study, you know. And I felt like my parents worked so hard to like enable for my little brother and me like a halfway decent life.
Right.
And I felt like I kind of owed that to them. So that's just why I studied business. But in the end, it was great because it taught me a lot of like the fundamental principles of, you know, you're an artist, that means you're a brand and cash flow and all these things. But you don't notice that as you're doing it. As you're doing it, it's just like, why am I sitting here? Like, oh, fuck this shit.
Yeah, I think that's what working class kids, they realize after a while how to monetize things. It's just, you have that in you, but you don't even realize it, that entrepreneurial spirit, you know, about how to make shit happen.
Exactly.
You know, and you have to live by your wits, as I said earlier on, and you definitely did that. And sort of, where was I going to go with the conversation after that? It was like, so back to even within the rap community. The one thing I've noticed as well that you don't see as much in other communities is the amount of collaborations that go on. Like you work with a lot of different other rappers as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have a big network of artists that I'm like friends with or that are like acquaintances. Right. But collaborating, I think, is important in hip hop, but it has changed. Like, it used to be more. It used to, people used to like hop on other people's beats, do a remix and whatever, diss tracks, whatever. But it's like, because it had that cross promotional effect. And now I think because it has become there's so many different niches and pockets and sounds, like I find it weird that rap, everything falls under the same category. Like a J. Cole and a Kendrick Lamar sound so different from like a Playboi Carti. That's like, why is that? Like, look at rock. You have so many subgenres that are being recognized as them. And I think the industry has a lot of like work to do there to, you know, recognize that, pick up on it. Even like, look at Afrobeats. Afrobeats falls under the world music category. It's like, you know, people, I don't know, doing humming from like Tibet. That's the same category, Afrobeats. Look at Burna Boy. Everywhere he plays, 60,000 tickets sold out instantly. And it's like, what other acts are doing this apart from like real OG, like we're talking like Rolling Stones and shit. And like, why do we just like sweep that to the side? It should be, you know, more recognized. But anyways, so yeah, collaborating is crucial. You know, a lot of rappers, they start out in their neighborhood with the people from their neighborhood, or they travel somewhere and then, you know, y'all hang out in the studio, have fun, make music, just freestyle together. And I think that just, if you love music, it continues like that, even as you become a bigger artist. And that's the thing I've seen with a lot of real big artists, like rappers particularly, they never lose that. So a very successful rapper that loves rap and that loves music will always collaborate with someone has never heard of, just because they're a fan and they want to give them a platform. And like rappers who treat rap and music more as a business, they don't do that. Right. Okay. Yeah.
It's funny. I did a podcast with Time for Three. They're a classical kind of unit from. They're the ones who did that. They've done loads of different massive projects at the moment. But two of the kids in the act are Asian, and they've got the really pushy Asian parents, you know. I've noticed that with like, because obviously a lot of Nigerian parents, and like they really want the best for you, and they want you to kind of take it to the next level. I mean, obviously your dad probably was a little bit more like, what are you doing? Your mum was always a big supporter of you.
Always, always.
If I remember rightly, going back.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I mean, in Nigerian culture, it's just like, you know, you become a doctor, you become a lawyer, you become an accountant, or if you really want to make money, you become a pastor or a politician. Like, that's how it goes in Nigeria. But I think once I started like making money off of my music, and then once, you know, they started coming out to my shows and see like billboards or like hear my stuff on the radio, I think that changed a lot, because then my dad really understood like, oh, it's like, he's really doing it. This is really a thing. Whereas my mom, she was just always like, yo, you just got to be happy. But I think it's not only with Nigerians, as you said, like the Asian community, anybody I think that comes from like a ethnic background of people that moved to the West. They have that same spirit. And you kind of need to have that because it's that drive that I want opportunity and I want a better life for my kids that makes you want to leave that country where you're from, where you understand the language, where you understand the culture, going into a place where you might not speak the language, you might not understand the culture. People might look at you different because you have facial features, color, whatever. And you understand how these societies work, because especially places like America, like money is what matters, and money, comes with status and security. And if your kid tells you, I want to be a musician, that doesn't sound like status, security, and money, unless, you happen to be part of that, whatever 1% that cut through. So, yeah, I get where the parents come from.
So, because you're surrounded by quite a lot of women. I mean, maybe that comes from the belief in your mum had in you, and sort of like, and I mean, I'm similar. I think there's a huge issue we could talk about, and women being underpaid and not being getting equal pay to men. But you do that purposely, or it just evolved that way, where you're surrounded by so many women in your business? It
just happens. Like my management team. We just had a man join actually from the US, but outside of that is like my entire ecosystem. We're talking like 11 women that I work with and like 2 guys.
Right.
And even before my old management was a woman, before that, like Margaret, who's still like, mentoring me and stuff. It's like
Margaret was fabulous.
Yeah. It's like
she was hardcore.
Yeah, but that's
in a good way.
But as a woman, you have to be that way, because otherwise people look at you like, oh yeah, that's a woman, that's okay. Like, you know what I mean? They don't, as a woman, you almost have to be tougher when it comes to negotiation and all these sort of things, because a lot of men, and it's not because every man walks around this world and is like, let me see what I can suppress today, It's more a thing of like, you as a man live with a privilege that you don't even recognize. And like, it took me a while to like, basically being a young man to like, start reflecting and thinking about, oh, why am I seeing this that way? Why am I thinking like this? Oh, like I remember I changed agents because my new management team was like, yo, your agent is sexist. It's like he doesn't take us, like the tour manager, serious when we speak to them and da-da-da. And I was like, my initial response was like, I don't think they're sexist. Like I had a woman managing me before and she never had an issue. And then they were like, yo, just listen to what you said. That's like you, as like me, coming to them and being like, oh, that guy is racist. And then they would be like, no, he's not racist. He has a black friend. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
But it's that type of shit that you start reflecting and trying to understand a woman's perspective that makes you realize how like internalized sexism is as a thing. So me working with a lot of women is not a conscious decision. I think it's just a byproduct of looking at who can get the job done. And with women also, very often you don't deal with a lot of like the ego issues and all that shit that men tend to have.
I mean, without getting too controversial here, but within sort of rap, and especially even East Coast rap back in the day, I mean, it was quite misogynistic.
Oh, hell yeah. Rap is, but that's like rap reflects society and culture, and is probably the most honest medium, one of the most honest mediums that we have in terms of being a mirror of society. And what people are mad at when they're mad at rap is really they're mad at society, but they don't want to check themselves. They don't want to be pointing fingers at themselves, so they're pointing fingers at the rappers. They're like, you're being chauvinistic, misogynistic, you're degrading women, you're doing this, that. But when it really comes down to it and you be looking at who's out here really, booking the prostitutes in the back rooms and da-da-da, and you see it's like a lot of like, white male politicians and executives and all that stuff. But, they have a clean image, so nobody's really pointing fingers at them. So that's just that. And rap gotta be unapologetic. Like pop music is polished. Rock music don't really have the platform that it used to have. So it's really up to the rappers to like talk about what life is about. Like you look at NWA, you look at Tupac, you look at people like Kendrick, like they give you an insight into a world, into a community that you would never get an insight to unless you fucking turn on like CNN or Fox News, but they have their own narrative on these issues that they're pushing rather than, you know, getting the direct information from the source.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think that narrative has changed over the, you know? I mean, I've listened to your songs, and you know, and I know the positivity that you're bringing to your music, and it just is. It's a positive, reinforcing. You know, be yourself. You know, the messages are very clear and positive. Is there more of a movement of that now, or is it just it's a mixed bag?
I think it's a broad mix, but like, again, like rap has all these different pockets and niches, and it's like, just for me, that's my calling, you know what I mean? Like, I have ignorant music as well, like where I turn up and I talk about drugs and money and partying and whatever, but I also have, you know, these songs where I speak about depression and, you know, my mom and love and all these sort of things. So I think you just...
Trying to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. That's just that. And if somebody, you know, you look at it like a Future, people are saying, oh, he's toxic and he's da-da-da, but like, you be looking at how does this guy got like, what, 12 kids or some shit? Like, he's just really rapping about his life. That's really him. And you can't even be really mad at him because that's how a lot of people are living. Yeah,
it's like when you grow up, especially with no money, again, we're going back to that, but, you know, I was talking to someone recently about, you know, I used to have a lot of back problems and anyway, over the years, it kind of sorted itself out, and a lot of and I felt actually as I got older, I was getting happier. And then someone said to me, why do you think that is? And I have to say, honestly, and this makes me sound a bit crude, and it makes me sound a little bit shallow, money. I made a lot more money. It makes me happier. You know, I have to put my hand up and say, you know, being poor sucked.
Oh yeah, of course.
I didn't like it, and it's like I don't believe anyone who's poor really enjoys it. And making money when you know you can pay the bills and you know you can take a holiday, and you know it just makes you happier. And it sounded like, especially Irish, were living in it's kind of rude or kind of just not cool to say that. But I have to be honest, and getting back to the narrative again, I think with rap music they tell it as it is. Where maybe in rock music they don't. And even getting onto rock music, which is kind of my genre, to be fair, but you know, a lot of very sexist lyrics and a lot of, you know, those older songs, and you know, being disrespectful to women, and even in, you know, the whole groupie scene, and you know, so, but they just didn't.
But I mean, that's like, if we're getting down to that's a race discussion. Like rock music is not associated as much with black people as it also, if you really look at the history, as it should be also, you know, but rock music is generally considered a white genre, and that's why people kind of turn a blind eye to it. Like, you look at court cases, right? Rappers are really the only ones where they would use the lyrics to like really try to build a case. You had that recently with like Young Thug and the Rico case, everybody that was associated, and they were like, oh, you said this in that song, you said that in that song. It's like, you don't do that with rock stars that like sing about murdering someone or raping someone and da-da-da. Or you don't also do it with actors. Like, a lot of rappers, they're again, you have the honest rappers who, you know, speak their truth, and then you have people who are they're entertainers, they're playing characters, but like that's used against them. And that is a race debate that we're having there. And in regards to the money thing, I hear you, but I think I don't know how you feel inside, but I feel like money is obviously the tool. I think what you love, or at least for me, is like the freedom. The opportunity, as you said, you don't have to worry about, oh, how am I gonna pay?
Money. It's important.
But like, but that's the key thing, is like how much, that's an infinite thing, money, right? So it's like, how much is enough? Like, I read this statistic, I don't remember what it was, but it said like after 7,000 or something a month to live off, and essentially like after tax, the quality of life doesn't really improve anymore. You just receive a better version of something. Like, you get a better apartment, you get a better car, but like all your basic needs on your Maslow's pyramid, and probably the upper echelons of that as well, they're covered. And now you're just getting instead of a Nike sneaker, you can go to Chanel and buy a sneaker. Instead of a Michael Kors bag or whatever Aldi carrying bag, you can go and buy a Birkin bag or something. And I found that very interesting, and it definitely changed my perspective on it. And this whole thing also of again, switching from survival mode to, okay, I'm not on survival mode anymore. Like, what am I going to do with my money? Like, I remember before the pandemic, because it was torn so much and whatever, and like crypto became such a big thing, and I made a lot of money, and it was so much money that I started losing touch to it. Like, I would see like somebody would send me like a random coin, and I'll just like drop $5,000 into it. Again, you know, digital currency and da-da-da. So it's like, if somebody would pull up that I don't know and would be like, yo, buy this, give me like 10,000, give me 5,000, and it's gonna make you more money, I'll be like, get the fuck out of here. Like, what, you know, you're trying to hustle me. Yeah. But like that, bro, it was like, I'll drop like $300 into something, and within a couple of months, it became like 100,000. And everybody, even my singing teacher was like, cash the money out, cash the money out. My girl was like, unless the money's on your bank account, it ain't your money. I was like, nah, it's gonna go to millions, What happened? Shit, boom, it evaporated. Like, you know, they're gonna call that a rug pull and so on. And after that whole experience of like making so much money in that space, but also losing literally all that money again because I didn't cash out, I was like, oh, okay. And I started reflecting and thinking back of like the time, for example, I was recording with you. It's like 5,000 would have changed my life. I would have, 5,000 back then would have been like $1 million to me. And now I'm like, that experience has definitely like humbled me and made me understand like, yo, you got to be more wise with your decisions.
So when you, just going on that kind of that angle for a second, when was the first time you went to Nigeria? What age were you?
That was when I was 14.
So that must have been a bit of a culture shock.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that trip changed my life when I was there for the first time, because back then, like, being poor to me was like the worst thing in the world. And being there and like seeing people, you know, not have a lot and be so happy. I remember like I asked my dad, like, why are people so happy? Like, they're poor. and then he was like, yeah, that's the culture. Like, the money ain't everything, you know? And that definitely changed my life. Yeah, it had such a big impact on me.
So, and how long were you there for?
Just like 3 weeks, and then I went again when I was 16, and then I haven't actually been ever since. It's been on my like bucket list, but just every time I want to go, it's like there's other stuff coming up and touring and da-da-da, but like I really have to go again.
Would you like to make a record out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've recorded like in all sorts of places. A lot of the records that I've released like last year, I made in Morocco. Like, I rented a house in the desert for like 5 weeks, flew people in from all over the world. We set up studios in different rooms, and that was amazing. Like, being in different places has so much influence on, you know, just what you create and how you feel. But I've gotten to the point now where it's like, I don't like, for example, recording in a booth. I record in the room with the engineer or the producer.
That's how I do it.
Yeah, and I actually don't like going into studios anymore either, unless it's like an iconic studio and you make that experience. But I really prefer home studios, just like chilling somewhere and, you know, you feel at home. It has a soul, it has a character, and that will influence the records that I make. So it's like the music I make in Berlin is very different from the music I make in LA. Versus Paris, Milan, that's all the places that I go to, London. But some of my best, biggest records I've just done with my homies sitting in a room and just recording something and then, you know, releasing it. And it's like, oh, wow, okay. Crazy.
It's much quicker as well. But I remember reading about Dre, and actually, I think he was in that documentary about Dre, and he was saying that he does it even in this huge studio. You know, he's got the singer standing right beside him, he's got the headphones on, because the interaction is much better, and you know, it's kind of all about the performance at the end of the day, and getting that when someone's in a booth somewhere kind of far away, doesn't know what's going on, and you're pressing the button, and
people hit the Billboard charts off of stuff like XXXTentacion had a song in the charts that he recorded on a headset mic. Like, nobody gives a fuck. You know what I mean? Like, people listen to music just on their phones, like through their phone speakers. It's like, yeah, you can pay attention to all these details, and that's what I do. I love it.
Yeah.
But the average consumer does not care.
Well, I've got a really good, loads of stories like this. But I did a commercial for Saatchi and Saatchi, another one, and it was No Limit. You know, that's a no, 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 there's no limit. And so the head guy at Saatchi, really good friend of mine, Laszlo, he said, Rob, I need this kind of, powerful girl, a bit similar to the original one. Can you sort it out? And I'm like, it's good money and all the rest. I said, yeah, great. I think I know the perfect singer for this. So I rang this friend of mine, his perfect voice for that kind of commercial. And she said, Rob, I can't do it. I'm in, where was she? It was in, I'm in Croatia, or no, Albania. That's what she said. I'm in Albania, but I can't do it. I said, I really need something just to sort of get the process going. I said, look, I'll tell you what to do. So you've got your iPhone there. Someone else got an iPhone. So I'm going to send you an MP3 of the track, and then just play it on your headphones, and then get someone else's phone, right, and sing it into a voice note, into a voice note, and send me that, and I that'll be good for now. So she goes into the bathroom of this club in Albania, and no, sings it, sends me it, right. I stick it on the commercial, right, sent it to them, kind of forgot about it, ended up being the ad. Crazy. Nobody noticed. So the vocal was recorded in a toilet in Albania on an iPhone. Yeah. Nobody noticed.
Crazy.
So it just goes to show you, and it's all about the performance and the moment, and there's too much emphasis on that. I agree with you. I work from home a lot now as well, and I love it. People come to my house, and I didn't build a booth. Why would I need a booth? I prefer being in the room with the artist and kind of that intimacy, and it's quicker and it's faster.
It's just also bro, kids, they sit at home and you're just with your homie and you making music, and that's that. There's no such thing you have a cracked version of Logic, Fruity Loops, whatever on your, you have a shitty, cheap mic, and you upload that shit to SoundCloud or whatever. And it's especially today, you could go viral overnight. Shit, you upload a TikTok, and that's that. And there's no, that whole process, it doesn't really exist anymore. There's no, we're in this, historic place here, and it's just look at the shit they need. This is this thing, you put that roll on, that's one song you play off of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were saying earlier, there was another one with all the instruments hanging from the ceilings. Your phone has more power in it than all of these things combined, and that's just that. But it's so interesting how that has changed. And especially now with AI, there's so much AI music software also, where it's you kind of just describe what you want, and it just gives you, the beat. It gives you say oh, I want this to sound like Travis Scott, my vocal processing, or Drake, or whoever, and it just does it.
That's incredible.
So I think in the future it's going to be really interesting, because you're going to be in a place where it's it's not about who's a good lyricist and musician. It's more about who knows how to give the AI the best prompts. And the Grammys just updated their whole nomination process of for AI tracks. It's you need more than 20% of human input for a song to be submitted. If it's entirely AI made, it's not eligible for the Grammys. And it's a really interesting set of rules, which we're going to see how it's going to work. Because a couple of weeks ago, there was this guy, he called himself Ghostwriter, or she called herself Ghostwriter, and she used a Drake and a Weeknd AI to create a Drake featuring the Weeknd song, and it went crazy viral. And it's on all across Twitter and SoundCloud and Spotify, also got uploaded there and made within 24 hours a couple of million of streams in total. And then Universal got it taken down and the profile deleted. And then people were saying, but why? Because it wasn't uploaded onto Drake's profile, you know what I mean? And it's but it was advertised as a Drake song. So it's that whole legal gray area is going to be super, super interesting. It's people can walk around and be oh, I have a feature from, I don't know, Michael Jackson. You know what I mean? People have Drake songs sung by Michael Jackson AI.
I know, I've heard them. And it's amazing. It's the technology is incredible, the machine learning.
Yeah.
And, that is, the most bizarre one, slightly segueing a little bit away from music, was a technologist was telling me the other day that this, you can now, if you've got, say your father is deceased, and you've got enough audio of them, so you can feed that into an algorithm, and then you could actually have a phone call
Yes,
with your
deceased
deceased
loved ones.
parent. I mean, how bizarre is that?
It's definitely some
I mean,
Black Mirror shit.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's
you know, that is really...
But it's like, again, we're in the space here, and we were talking about like these old gramophones that have like this logo with his master's voice, and there's the dog sitting in front of it because the dog is like listening to its, you know, deceased owner's voice, and it's like, oh, it sounds like him, but like, where is he? And that is just like, that's the evolution off of that, you know. At some point, there's companies out there right now where you could like, they ask you certain questions and they create a model, an AI model based on the way you think and speak and reason and language and whatever. So it's not only you can have a phone call, like you could every day have a conversation with your loved one after they leave. And, you know, that now gets into like the field of ethical conversations. Is like, who owns that data? Who owns your the AI you? And
sure.
And what is if it says something that's not, you know, that's not okay, and all these sort of things. Like there's this influencer, she has like 2 million followers, 98% is male, and she just uploaded a chatbot that sounds like her, that like speaks like her. It will send you pictures. So she just creates content, uploads it to a cloud, and there she makes 5 million a month off of that, because every message you pay. And then there's guys having full on like digital relationships with that influencer, and she has no idea who they are. And and it's like they showed it in a documentary, and it's like, you know, they play the voice note, and she's like, oh my God, how you doing, baby? My day was so good. I went shopping, da da da. And there's like a selfie of her, and you would think, oh, that's his girlfriend. And yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, what is reality then in the end? You know what I mean? It's going to, as it evolves, like how are you going to know it's real?
Yeah, and that is the thing. Somebody said we are like the last generation that will think when they see a picture or a video or hear something that it's real and human made. Like the generations that are coming, they're just going to know AI stuff. Like they will assume automatically that everything they see on the internet and hear is AI made.
I think though the opportunity for sort of fraud is huge.
Of course.
People faking your identity, and
people.
I mean, they're gonna have to create complete new laws for this, and safeguards at the banks and everything. I mean, you know, talking to these technologists recently, these friends of mine, they were saying like 4 years, it's literally out of control. You know, they're saying they're trying to do a moratorium on it in Europe and America to try and calm things down, to kind of stop a lot of development just until
even
legislation.
Elon Musk signed that petition. Yeah,
but the Russians won't do it, and the Chinese won't do it. Let's be honest.
Of course not. Yeah.
You know, so they're going to just run wild with it, and it is quite terrifying. I mean, to be honest, I mean, when you speak to people in the industry, they're frightened. It's like this friend of mine here is like worked for Google for 10 years and just quit. In the end, it was just like, if you knew what they're capable of doing now. I think the frightening thing is where, you can kind of recreate someone's whole identity, then they can control politicians, you know, they can, you know, this...
But it's been already happening. Like you look at the whole Trump election thing with Cambridge Analytica and so on, that where they said, okay, we can't make you vote for Trump, but we can make sure that person will not vote for their Democrat, you know, for their favorite Democrat by just rolling out fake news to them and like hyper-targeted, and it's insane. And I remember this case also with the deep fake where a politician, they made like a deep fake about her, and she was like, oh, take it down. And Facebook was like, we're not going to take it down because it's not violating our user policy. And then this group, like hacktivist group, made a deep fake of Mark Zuckerberg saying something and uploading it to Facebook, and Facebook took it down.
Of course,
you know, it's like it's all these
double standards.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving forward, Kelvyn, what's next? What's the next thing you're doing?
A lot more like music. I'm rolling out like songs a lot because I'm sitting on so much music, and I just want it to be out because I evolve very quickly sonically and you know what I want to do. So I'm going to be releasing a lot more music, and I have some more amazing like short films and music videos come in. That's also a very big part of my artistry. I direct, I invest really heavy into my visuals.
Sorry to stop you there, but I was in Havana the same time you were in Havana.
No way.
And I missed you.
Okay.
And I was literally leaving, and then someone told me you'd been there at the same time as I was in Havana. I had an amazing time.
Yeah,
it would have been so great and I saw the video and I loved it. It's like,
the short film we shot there.
It would have been so much fun to hang out in Havana.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to do a record there as well, but it was really funny. I went to the same studio that they did the Buena Vista Social Club. So Havana. And I organised a meeting to go down to the studio. So I walk into the control room and I'm like, so where is it? And they went, where's what? I said, where is it? What? The desk, the speakers. It was just an empty room.
Crazy.
And it was like, oh, don't worry. When you come, we'll make sure everything's here. It was like, it's an empty room.
Crazy.
It was like the Wild West. But it was just, the music there was fantastic. I absolutely love the music, and music everywhere you go. And
Absolutely. Like, people have their like
in.
living room doors open, and you walk by, you can see what they're eating on the table, what they're watching. They just catch you looking. They're like, oh, come in, have a drink with us. It's like you see kids playing on the street. You don't really see that stuff.
Yeah, dogs just walking around the street on their own and all the rest.
And everybody like knows everyone, and people are just so friendly. It's a whole, and also there's no advertisement anywhere. Like that to me was so unreal. You see no billboards.
I have to say the one thing, and this is kind of controversial, won't go down well with everybody, but I've been to the Caribbean, most of the islands, Jamaica, St. Lucia, on holidays, and most of the islands anyway. And you get there and it's kind of, all the big hotels are run by Europeans and Americans. You go to Cuba, the Cubans are running Cuba.
Yeah, it's the government. Yeah, well, there's a certain group of Cubans, but
sure, but it is getting better. Where ordinary Cubans, whereas the rest of the Caribbean is kind of just run by white people.
The time we were there, they were just rolling out internet, and that was like, what, I don't know, 4 years ago.
Where were you staying?
We were in Havana at like this huge hotel that was just right by the coast. I don't even know what it was called, but like the whole trip was organized and paid for by Havana, like the rum, which is obviously co-owned by the Cuban government. Okay. So yeah, we had they took care of us, what I'm saying?
Kempinski, that's where I was staying. It's fantastic. It's got a roof
it was
pool on it and all the rest of it. It's amazing.
Around the corner from where we were,
Amazing hotel. Because people used to say to me, you're going to Havana, it's like, and I'd say, I'm staying in a nice hotel. And they're like, no, you're not. There's no nice hotels in Havana. So there is one now. So it's only been built about 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay, wow.
Fantastic. Brilliant hotel, beautiful rooms looking over the square, and reasonably priced. I mean, and the government thing is controversial, and I'm very anti any kind of control. So that side of it, okay, I'm against any kind of government control. But the thing I have to say for me that you cannot not love is the music, and the love of Cubans for music. Because it's a joyous thing.
Yeah,
and
they were just very beautiful people outside and inside.
I agree. So you were making films there. We got segued there, but so you're making a lot of films as well as making music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was a short film we shot because at the time I designed my own Havana rum bottle.
Oh wow!
And so we, created. I wrote a script, like a short film around that, like how we were smuggling the rum out of the country, and like a high-speed chase to like the airport and all that sort of stuff. That's what we were doing there, and it was a lot of fun. Like I got to see a lot of the country, because we were like scouting different sites and like locations. We were casting people, so. We had all these people come through, all these talented dancers and actors, and it was great.
So on the music side, are you a label now, or how's that working?
Also, yeah, and that's interesting because a lot of people come to like, I'm one of the first or like only like English speaking artists, rappers from like Germany to, do what I do. So a lot of people come to me and like, yo, I want to do the same thing. And can I sign, you're looking for artists that you want to sign and so on. But I'm not at the point where I want to be doing that right now. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a lot of work, man.
It's a lot of work. And I feel like you're fucking with somebody's dream. You know what I mean? Like,
you've got their dreams in your hands.
Focusing on, like, I'm still building my dream. And then I can't be, giving you halftime energy.
Yeah, the responsibility is huge. Even
it's
as a
huge.
producer, it's huge when you take someone's music in your hands. You can you can put them back 5 years if you get it wrong.
Absolutely.
It's huge. It's huge responsibility. So, not a label at this point, just your own music.
Yeah,
and
I'm my own label in that sense.
and your own publisher as well.
Yeah, I'm unpublished. Yeah, so we have people who do like the auditing, and they take like a small cut for that. So we do the admin ourselves. Yeah.
And on the fashion side, where's that at? I mean, are you sort of associated with any particular brands at the moment? Or?
Yeah, the only one that I have like an actual deal with is Cartier. So I'm like one of the friends of the maison in that sense. And then there's like, you know, brands that I work with and that send me clothes and so on. But most of them are like from the high end luxury / streetwear field. I've been offered many times to have like my own collection.
I was going to say that, yeah.
But that was more so, that wasn't the luxury field. That was more so like the direction of like H&M and stuff. And I'm just not that big on like fast fashion. I believe in, as much as I'm part of capitalism and consumerism, a reasonable amount of sustainability, and that just doesn't play part of it. But, you know, back in the day when I had no money, I was going there as well. Like, you know, There's no shame in it. But it's just, I like to purchase things that last nowadays because, you know, I've put myself in a position to be doing that. But at some point, I definitely want to have my own, like, line, but not only fashion. It's like I enjoy, you know, interior. I enjoy architecture. Again, I make like scented candles. I want to be doing, you know, pottery, interior. Like just I like creating product, because creating product is just creating. I don't even want to call it product, but I feel like it sounds so pretentious if I just call it art. You know what I mean? But that's what it is at the end of the day. You have a vision, you have an idea, and you bring something to life. And it's the same with music. But what I like about tangible things is like you can hold it, you can look at it, you can really just use it in your everyday life. And that is, I feel like that's the God in us. You know what I mean? Like you create. Right. It's a as much as we're having a human experience, it's a godly experience also. You create, you put it out in the world for other people to use, including yourself. And I think that's a very spiritual process that should be respected, and at the same time that everyone should experience. Like, do shit, like create stuff. It's amazing. And I think once you really dig into creating, you view consuming very differently also, because once you understand how much it costs to do something, you're gonna think twice before you buy something, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of, I've kind of slightly gone the other way in the ways I'm trying to be more of a minimalist, just have less stuff personally, you know, but as you say, just have quality stuff, get something that will really last, but I don't need 10 of them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I think, because going back to the sustainability in fashion, because, you know, the fashion industry has a really bad footprint, carbon footprint and pollution-wise.
Absolutely.
And
Fashion Week,
rights.
people, 4 times a year, people flying to different cities. You have Fashion Week, Paris, Milan, London, New York, Korea, like people flying from all over the world to that place, and then they produce these huge events and all these clothes and blah, 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 and then just to sell. And there's always more. What happens to the old shit? You know what I mean? It's like...
Is there a conversation within that world about trying to make it better?
Yeah, it's but it's like the younger generation more so than like the gatekeepers, the people that are in power. I think it's more so a conversation of our fundamental problems within capitalism than anything else.
Yeah, the greenwash.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Kelvyn, I think I'm going to have to call it a day because you've got to catch a flight and get back to
Fashion Week.
the Fashion Week in Paris.
Out of all places, yeah. Absolutely.
It's been absolutely amazing having you here, man. It's been a while, and it's been brilliant to reconnect. And you know, I think only huge things ahead for you, dude. And hopefully we'll catch up again soon. You got to come back and do a show here at some point.
Yes,
you know?
please.
It'd be amazing to see you again.
Thank you,
Kelvyn. Thank you, dude.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.